Alright, ladies and gentlemen, this is Raster over here once again on Panter TV. Yes, Panter TV. I'm called here to have a talk with Panter. Now, I told him way back that I was born talkative. Think of somebody or a machine or something that was born with a default. So I was born talkative at birth, and being talkative, I've done things. I've talked myself in trouble. I've talked myself out of trouble. I've gotten to see a lot. And speaking of which, this is the reason why I'm here. Very soon I'll be promoting, or I'll be doing a show. Very nice script, very nice, interesting, also part of what I am, and that's the reason why I like the script and how it's gonna go in the project we are working on. Again, it will probably be showing here on Panter TV. Now, speaking of which, anyway, first and foremost, who am I? I'm a guy that is simple, is humbled by what I see and what I learn on my journey, and I call it a journey because sometimes we stop. I believe in my heart that if people can start enjoying the journey instead of all relations, I think this is where the difference is. We look at journeys and we forget that the journey is where the joy comes, is where the story comes from. Is where truth comes from. Speaking of which is, for example, the reason why the young man here asks me to be here today is to speak me and to speak my truth. And my truth for me is simple. It comes down to basic truth. Basic truth being that we are all the same. We are the same, but the difference comes from what we learn, from what we are surrounded by. For example, think about it. Culture is different. People can be the same but different cultures. People can be the same but different tribes. People can be the same but different nations. Now, when we begin to look at those differences and all those things, it's where the confusion comes from. I want to always believe that if the world can look at life in ones and zeros, yes, ones and zeros, meaning that it's yes or no, black or white. It's that simple. Life. And the difference being that I am pure old school. I am old. This is me. This is me at my purest. So, for example, my biggest problem today is the difference between old school and millennial. Old school and millennial. This is what my heart feels like I want to talk about today. See, the difference is that old school had morals and culture that was passed on from generation to generation. And that culture and those morals molded you, whether they were difficult, sometimes they were executed the wrong way, sometimes they were executed the right way. Either way, they always tried and led to something better, something that you and me are able to be here today. Now, for the old schools out there, probably will agree with me. And this is how I bring it down in my simplest of ways. I always bring it down to the best of ways to explain it. I say that before we take it for granted, yes, and I repeat this, that before we take it for granted, because when you ask everybody, what are tigers or what are domestic animals, they're going to tell you right away. They're going to tell you, well, domestic animals are tigers, are cats and dogs, and wild animals are tigers and lions. And you see, we are quick to know. This is knowledge. We are quick to know, but my idea, my way of looking at life in its purest of forms is, before we take it for granted that tigers and lions are wild animals, before it became knowledge, can we take a second, a microsecond, and realize that a couple of people, a number of people must have been eaten by these animals. For them, at the time when they had no languages, they had no tribes, they had no differences, they realized they were speaking in sounds. But at that time, they realized that, wait a minute, and wildcats. Now, this is the part that I want also to talk about. Now, let's say, for example, you have cats. Again, simple example. Wild cats. You have tigers, you have leopards, you have lions. But guess what? If a tiger sees a cheetah, it runs. If a cheetah sees a leopard, it runs. All I'm saying is that yes, we can all be cats, but we are able to recognize the difference. And speaking of which brings me back to the idea of old school and millennials. See, for example, what defines millennials? What defines old school? Character. It wasn't because you had lots of money or because you were a doctor or an engineer, yes. It came with pride because of the character. The character being that, for example, a man, let me give you a simple example, a man goes to a titty bar or goes to, street bar, whatever, and gets a stripper dressed as a nurse or as a doctor, you understand? The idea of him paying the stripper was because he could not get the doctor, because of the morality of ideas, of the way we look at life. Now what do we have today? You have a doctor figuring out that, wait a minute, a stripper probably makes much more, makes this much. And then you have a doctor doing the stripper, or the stripper doing it. And their goal is, I think what's happening today is that we are now starting to take the stripper for the doctor, and not the other way around. You understand? Ones and zeros. Before we take it for granted that yes, tigers and lions eat people. Knowledge. Oh, I'm a doctor, I'm an engineer, professor, this. And I think, and for me, in my opinion, I think that now, today, the professionals are the ones leading us a dark path. Because they are forgetting for a second. Why was it knowledge in the first place? Why was it passed on? Music, for example. The record, the song took about 8 months, 3 months. Not because they couldn't pass it out as today. Because they took a minute, a second to think about the lyrics, to think about how is it going to affect who's listening. And not the other way around. You see, for example, I'm Raster, yes. This is me, I'm a purist. But my message to the world is again, simple. What is more important? What is more important? Is it faith or religion? Is it knowledge or what you use the knowledge for? What's the purpose of me reading all the law books and I've never practiced law to save a human being? What's the purpose of me learning how to drive when I'm never going to drive a car? Knowledge. Again, I bring it down to a very simple fact. Ones and zeros. Knowledge to me being or knowing what you say, or what to say, or knowing what to do. For example, you are an engineer. That is you knowing what to do. You are a doctor. That is you knowing what to do and what to say. You are a lawyer. That is you knowing what to say and how to say it. You're a salesman, you know how to do it, and marketing, whatever it is you are. Knowledge is basically knowing what to do and knowing what to say. Now, wisdom, on the other hand, I would want to say is knowing when to say it, knowing when to do it. Well, think about it for a second. If there are no morals, you see, me being me, just again, my message to the world again, on Panter TV, is simple message again. One of the reasons I'm here is, what's the difference, if I can ask the audience, what's the difference to you young people between a prostitute and escort services? What's the difference? You see, before ladies, especially young ladies, young millennials, before young people begin confusing things, I read things in the news and I follow up. I've been on Twitter, for example, for a couple of days now, and I've never posted a thing. Because it's, there are no words to explain it. But the thing is this. Now, because people think it is easy, they forget the why it was. Before you begin talking about how big the house should be, do you realize why a house was needed in the first place? Because that's what you see these days. And this is for me, this is my message for me. As you see now, I believe in my heart that when you live a couple of decades, when your decades are in prologue, you realize for a second that yes, you have lived enough. You understand? You have lived enough. For example, we were having a talk the other day. Sometimes there was a reason why 40 was important. You're wise at 40, you're a fool at 40, you've never done at 40. 40. Why? Because you have done it all. You have lived enough, drunk enough, studied enough, you have had you fun enough, ladies, you men, you have fucked around, if I can put it bluntly. Fucked it up. The idea is, if you cannot at that moment start to live life and enjoy life and understand it in its purest, then the path is wrong. It's that simple. How do you judge me if you don't know me? How do you categorize me if you don't know me? Study it. Science. Why do we study science? Why do we study mathematics, measurements? Languages, communication. What's more important? Is it the language or the communication, the understanding? As you're arguing over the languages and the tribes, then where are you going to put the category of the dumb, the ones who speak with sign language? It gets complicated and a lot. But if really, and this is me, really, this is my message to the world, I don't know who'll ever get it. Think about it for a second. You have presidents today, elections, for example, past elections. Again, you see, in the other show anyway, like I wanted to talk about, let me just break a little bit and make it fun again. You see, I'm going to do a show in tribute to the two most important people in my life. I'm going to do a show in respect to my mother, love you, ma'am, and to my grandfather. Because I'm a village boy, I'm a simple man. These are the two people that molded me to this day. Good or bad. And I'll tell you, you're gonna love. The show is called Mouth. The show is called Out of His Mind. Out of His Mind, Mouth Speaketh. He's an old man. He's a man that is done with life. He's fun. He's crazy. He's talking to you. It's a whole show. It's gonna be. Who knows? You'll tell me again. But getting back to Panter TV, you're talking. To Panter, my deepest, and this is my way of looking at life. Those who know me, or those who have lived with me, or those who can tell you who I am, I'm basically a ones and zeros man. Again, simple. You see, for example, I'll tell you what's the other side of 1%. Let's take a moment. That's old school. Young people be asking all the goddamn time. All the goddamn time. What are you drinking? Well, I'm drinking something. Well, are you drinking something? Well, there we go. You'll be asking questions like if the Pope is a Catholic. You're asking obvious questions. These are some of the things I learned from my grandfather. You understand? He was the simplest of men, a preacher man. And to understand him, this was a man who never went to school, but all his children were educated. And when you would have a lawyer and a doctor and somebody arguing over something, he had a way of calming it down, and he would say, hey, listen, you're a doctor, yes. You're this, yes. You're a teacher, yes. And he would say, listen, well, that is you trying to figure out how the water enters the coconut. And he says, but the only way, and I say this to the world, again, this is me in respect to my mother and my father, my grandfather. Because he says, learn to look at the world in a way of coconuts. And I'll explain it. Coconuts. Because the only way you know how coconut has water is when you shake it. No, it's when you break it, look at it, it has water, fantastic, you drink it. Because you can shake it, it may feel like it got water, it got no water in it when you break it. Upside broken. Again, before you want people to respect you because you're a doctor or a lawyer, have you practiced enough? Have you treated people in your community? You're the engineer. Have you built a road in your community before you begin talking about building a skyscraper? You, the young man, the young girl, the young person out there who thinks because you read it, you know it all. No. For example, people ask me, I say I'm a learned man, I'm not an educated man. Learned, meaning that I learned a little of everything. Law, engineering, mathematics, everything, music, medicine. Bottom line, and this is my message to the world, especially to millennials. You see, you'll be fighting over things that, simple things, for example, simple things. Oh, you have relationships breaking up in every goddamn month, every goddamn 3 months. Relationships are breaking up. Why? Because the foundation was weak. Old school, again. Sometimes even relationships in different cultures, the man or the woman never knew each other, but they lived longer together. Now, some of you young people call it, oh, my mother lived in stress. No! And the word I'm looking for here is commitment. Commitment. We don't celebrate Ronaldo or Messi because they are good footballers. No. Probably they are better footballers than they do. The reason is when the man is in the field, whether he's playing in Africa, in Asia, in China, he is delivering results. The beauty, that's what gets you in. The big booty and everything, that's what gets you in. That's not what makes a wife. The looks, that's what gets you in. That's not what makes a business. Facebook, that's what makes you get in. That's not what makes you good friends. This whole mess of the world, everybody telling you what to do. Everybody's telling you the problem. Yes, we can see the problem. Where is the solution? Let's speak solutions. Simple solutions. We have a president like Donald Trump in presidency. A big topic we shall talk about. See, this is something I want to talk about, really, deep down. Today you're hearing presidents everywhere, elections everywhere going bad. Why? Because we have forgotten for a reason why they were supposed to be elected in the first place. There is a word that, if I hear it again, I think probably I'll shoot myself in the toe. Politically correct. Well, the reason why they are going for elections and the reason why they move around in different cities and people to talk to them is because we want to know the real them. Now you have a whole body of people practicing and telling you what to say. That is you already saying a lie. And then you wonder why the results are not the same. You, the boy, you rush to get the girl because of her looks. You, the girl, you rush to get the boy because of her looks. Well, do you know if at least she cooks? Well, yeah, you can probably afford pizza every day and sushi. All I'm saying is, even Bill Gates has a wife at home. All I'm saying is, millennials, this is my message to millennials. They know it. I love them to death. I love millennials. There's no life without youth. All I'm saying is that let's take a moment and realize for a second that before we take it for granted that lions and tigers, are wild animals and wild